Hi everyone, I hope you're all doing really well. Valentine's Day is just around the corner, and an annual tradition here on the channel, I've put together a vegan 3-course menu perfect for the occasion. And since it's still winter, I've tried to keep the ingredients quite seasonal. So the starter will be a roasted carrot dish with some gremolata on top of some yogurt with some toasted hazelnuts. And then for the main, I've made this really creamy beetroot pasta that has a great wow effect because it's bright pink and it's also really yummy, I promise, even though it looks a bit space age. And then for the dessert, I thought we must have chocolate. I know I always make chocolate desserts for these, but I think there's a reason for it because it's delicious and it just suits Valentine's Day. So I've made these no-bake chocolate and peanut butter tarts that are really yummy. Like, they have crunch and creaminess and they're rich and delicious. So I hope you will like the recipes. But before we get into cooking, I want to thank Ana Luisa for sponsoring this video. And for those of you who don't know Ana Luisa, they are a New York-based sustainable jewelry brand that use recycled silver and gold in their pieces. And for their finer jewelry, they also use lab-grown diamonds, which is a more ethical way of sourcing diamonds. At the moment, they have a Valentine's campaign going, which means if you buy one, you get the second one at 40% off. So I'll leave all the details and links down below for you if you want to check them out. They would make a perfect Valentine's gift. I've had many of my pieces for a really long time and I wear them daily. At least some of them, one of them, or many of them, like I am today. And this time they sent me 3 lovely pieces that I want to show you. Firstly, I've got these really cute tiny earrings in the shape of daisies with a small stone in the middle. They are very dainty, and this is something I like about Ana Luisa. They make great dainty jewelry, and these will be perfect in the first holes if you like something a little bit smaller for your everyday wear, or they would be perfect in a second piercing if you, like me, have one of those and want to wear bigger earrings and something smaller to frame it. And then I also received this very delicate bracelet that has little geometric shapes and charms hanging off it in the shape of teardrops. And I've said it before, but I really like layering up the bracelets from Ana Luisa, same with the necklaces and the rings as well. And the final piece they sent me is this ring with a slight little dome on it. It's very slim and fine, but still has a domed shape, which looks quite luxurious if you ask me, and I'm very happy to be wearing it. Anyways, I hope you liked seeing these pieces, and like I said, I will link everything down below for you if you're curious and you want to check Ana Luisa out. But now let's get to cooking and let's make the starter, which has about 4 components, but they're all very simple to make. I'm going to show you right now. To make 4 servings, I use about 500 grams of carrots that I first peel, and then I'm going to chop them into little batons that we're then going to roast. It doesn't matter if your carrots are different sizes and shapes, just cut them into equally thick batons and you'll be all good. I transfer the carrots to a mixing bowl so that I can season them up, and I start off by drizzling over about 1 tablespoon of olive oil as well as half a teaspoon of maple syrup, which will bring out that sweetness from the carrots. I also add a half a teaspoon of garlic powder as well as half a teaspoon of Aleppo chili flakes, or you could use any type of chili flakes you have on hand. I also season with salt and black pepper, and then I toss to coat, and they're ready to go on the oven tray. Once on the tray, I spread the carrots out so that they're in a single layer, and I roast them in the oven at 200 degrees fan assisted for about 20 to 25 minutes. While the carrots are roasting, I'm going to prepare the toppings, and here I have a 1/4 cup of raw hazelnuts that I just chop up into smaller pieces that are perfect for sprinkling. Once the hazelnuts are all chopped up, I transfer them into a dry hot pan and I toast them until they're fragrant and golden around the edges, and this only takes 3-4 minutes, so keep an eye on them. I transfer the hazelnuts into a little dish just to let them cool off and stop them from toasting for too long. And then I'm going to prepare the gremolata. So I start off with a large handful of fresh parsley. I'm using flat leaf, and I chop it up really finely. transfer the finely chopped parsley into a small bowl, and I'm gonna grate some lemon zest in there. I'm using the zest of a whole lemon, and I'm also going to add in 1 tablespoon of lemon juice. Next, I'm going to add in some fresh garlic, and I'm using 1 small clove or half a large clove, and I like to grate this on the microplane as well. Then, to bring all the flavors together and allow the flavors to come out, I pour in 3 tablespoons of olive oil, I add a pinch of salt, and then I just mix it up until it's really nicely combined. And then we're ready to plate up. So I start off each plate with 1 tablespoon of vegan Greek yogurt, and then I layer the roasted carrots on top. Here you can see what the carrots look like after about 20-25 minutes in the oven. But just keep an eye on them until they're golden and softened. Then I just drizzle over the gremolata and sprinkle over the hazelnuts. So this is the dish that will start off this 3-course meal, and it's very simple as you saw to make, but it comes together really nicely. You have the sweetness and a little bit of heat from those roasted carrots. Then you have tanginess from the yogurt and the gremolata, which also adds this like herbal touch. And then you have crunch and nuttiness from the toasted hazelnuts. And make sure you toast the hazelnuts because it really adds and boosts the flavor of them. But now let's make the main course, which is going to be this creamy beetroot spaghetti. And you could actually make the sauce ahead of time, and then when you're going to eat, you would cook the spaghetti and then heat it in the pan together once you drain the spaghetti. But I'm going to show you, of course, from the beginning to the end, so let's do it. To start off the sauce, I need to soak 3/4 of a cup of raw cashews, and I'm using boiling water, which shortens the soaking time to about 15 minutes to soften them. And in the meantime, I bring my pasta water to a boil. And I realize now that I said in the intro that I was making spaghetti, but I'm actually making linguine, and this is the more fancy brand that Rob likes from our supermarket. Just take one that suits you, use gluten-free if you need to. And when the pasta water is boiling, just add the pasta and cook according to cooking instructions, and of course salt the water, which just brings more flavor to the pasta. Then while the pasta is cooking and the cashews are still soaking, I'm going to toast some walnuts that I'm going to top the dish with later. So I just break the walnuts into a dry hot pan and I toast them until they're golden and fragrant, same as with the hazelnuts earlier. And then I just transfer them to a dish to let them cool. Then to continue making the sauce, I'm going to chop up 2 shallots finely, and this will just give a nice base flavor to the sauce. I like to just chop them finely because then when we go to fry them off a little bit, they will do that much quicker. I'm also going to add some garlic to the mix, and for this recipe I use about 2 large cloves. And as always, I just peel them and then chop them up finely so that I can saute them along with the shallots in a little bit of oil until they soften and they're ready to go into the blended sauce. Like to add a little pinch of salt when I saute my onions. I have this idea that it helps them soften and it also brings out their flavor. Once the shallots are translucent, I transfer them to my blender jug along with the other ingredients for the sauce. The cashews at this point are finished soaking, so I just drain them, rinse them, and then pop them into the blender as well. Then to the star of the show, I'm adding 2 medium-sized cooked beetroots that I've peeled, and I chop them into chunks just to make it easier for the blender, and then I add those to the blender as well. To the blender, I'm also adding 2 tablespoons of nutritional yeast, which just gives this a more savory and well-rounded flavor. I'm also adding in some lemon juice, about 2 tablespoons of that as well. Finally, I season with some salt and black pepper. And then to make the sauce the right consistency, I add in 3/4 cups worth of unsweetened soy milk. And then I just blend the sauce until it's super silky and smooth. As you can see, the beets make this a super vibrant pink color, and when the sauce is smooth and the pasta is done cooking, I drain the pasta and I pour over the sauce so that I can toss them together. The sauce like this makes about 4 portions, so you can just make enough pasta to go with that, or you can half the recipe and cook 2 servings of pasta if there's just 2 of you eating. The sauce also keeps really well in the fridge for up to a whole week if you keep it in an airtight container. To serve, I like to make little swirls with my tongs and then carefully place the swirls onto the plate. This just creates an interesting look, I think, but you can serve it any which way you like. Then you just top them with the toasted walnuts, and I've also got some vegan Brazil nut parmesan alternative, and I'll link down below the recipe to that. Then for a touch of green, I'm adding on some fresh thyme leaves, which actually makes the pink pop even more, and it also gives it a nice fresh pop of flavor too, and fresh thyme goes really well with beetroot. I think you can never really go wrong with pasta when you're treating someone to a meal. I think most people really appreciate pasta. I know I do, but this is a little bit special, especially with the color, and it still has a little bit of like a familiar flavor because the sauce that I've made is a little bit similar to how I would make like a vegan mac and cheese, but it has that earthiness and sweetness from the beetroot, and then a little bit of crunch from the toasted walnuts, of course. But that's the main course done. Let's make the dessert, which is going to be these little tartlets with chocolate like pudding moussey filling. And for this you're going to need a food processor. Both the crust and the filling is made in a food processor. And the recipe makes about 5 or 6, but you could of course half the recipe or third it if you're only serving 2 people. And you're also going to need some little tartlet cases that are 10 centimeters wide that also have this detachable bottom so that you can easily press the no-bake tarts out of the casing. That's basically all you need except for the ingredients, of course. And as always, you can find all the recipes linked down below if you want to see them written out. But now let's make the dessert. It's really fun and really yummy, so let's do it. For the crust, you're going to need 1 cup of mixed nuts, and I've got some hazelnuts, pecans, walnuts, almonds in here, but any nuts will work. And then I pop that into the food processor along with half a cup's worth of desiccated coconut. I'm also going to add in 1 tablespoon of unsweetened cocoa powder just to give it a little hint of chocolate. And I'm also going to add in 1 cup's worth of pitted fresh dates, or about 15 to 16 smaller dates. And these will just help bind everything together. Just make sure you remove all the pips, not to have any hard pieces of pips in there, because that is the worst. I also like to add a little pinch of salt, and then I close my food processor and I pulse the mixture until it comes together nicely, but there are still visible pieces of nuts left in there. You don't want it to become a paste, just a crumbly mixture that you can press together between your fingers like this. That's how easy it is to make the crust for these no-bake tarts, and it's really yummy. It adds a little bit of crunch and obviously a lot of nice sweetness from the dates. And then you just want to pinch them into your molds, and I like to use my fingers for this. I just press them out until a good layer, as you can see here, and I make sure to fill in all the crevices of the sides. Once my tartlet cases are filled, I place them in the freezer while I make the filling. And to start off the filling, I'm using silken tofu. I've got a 400 gram block here, and I'm adding all of it into the food processor. And you might be wondering what silken tofu is doing in a dessert, but I promise you it makes a really nice and luscious filling. I'm also adding in 1/3 cup of peanut butter. I'm using crunchy, but smooth would actually be better, but it doesn't really matter as you're going to blend it all together. Then I go in with 1/3 cup of maple syrup for sweetness, and I'm going to add in 1/4 teaspoon of vanilla powder. This just gives a nice hint of vanilla. And I'm adding 1 tablespoon of coconut oil. I season with salt, and then I'm ready to blend this until smooth. The coconut oil will help the filling firm up when we put them in the fridge later to set. And another ingredient that's going to help with this is chocolate. So once we've blended the mixture smooth, as you can see, it's nice and pourable here, we're going to melt some dark chocolate. I'm using a 100-gram bar of 70% dark chocolate, and I like to break it into a little bowl so that I can melt it over a bain-marie. That just means that you bring a pot of water to boil, and then you place the bowl with the chocolate over the boiling water, and it will create steam from underneath that helps it melt the chocolate in the bowl. I like to use a spatula to move it around, and once it's smooth and silky, I pour it into the mixture in the food processor while the food processor is on, and this just allows everything to emulsify nicely. Once the mixture is nice and smooth, I take my crusts out of the freezer and I fill them with the filling. I like to use this little sauce ladle to do this. I find that the easiest way, and I just pour it in up to the top just so that it's filled to the brim but not overflowing. And I smooth it out with the spoon, and then I bang out any little air bubbles that are in there before I place it in the fridge for 2-3 hours or even longer than that to set. Once the tartlets have set nicely, I take them out of the molds very carefully and I serve them on little plates. I like to decorate them with some crushed up peanuts to give a hint of the flavor inside of the filling, and I like to place it around the edge to create a little circle. I think this looks elegant, but again, let the creativity flow and do whatever you think looks beautiful. If you wanted to brighten and lighten this, you could serve it with some fresh berries on the side, but it is really yummy just like this. So these little chocolate tartlets concludes this 3-course vegan menu, perfect for Valentine's Day or any other day you want to make it. It would be great if you have a dinner with friends or family whenever you want, of course. And if you make any of the dishes, please share and tag me. I love seeing when you recreate my dishes, and I've seen so many of these 3-course menus especially made after I've shared them, and I always really appreciate it. So please tag me if you share something. I'd love to see it, and thank you all so much for all your lovely comments that you always leave me. I really appreciate those too. But now I'm going to leave you for today. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Bye.